Get out your favourite stick of rock because we are back by the sea in Brighton this week. And we are not alone. We are joined by Mike Lash from the Playlist Yeah podcast, discussing whether Royal Blood are overrated and the 80s Matchbox Beeline disaster are underrated. Although technically one of them might not be from Brighton, but from Worthing. Anyway, we get into the podcast. So please enjoy.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it underrated?
Underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Underskattad. Underrated.
So, welcome to another episode of Over Underrated with Fran and Babs. How are you doing today, Fran?
I'm unemployed for the first time in 5 years. Hello.
We're mentioning it on the podcast. Okay.
That's
Is this not your job?
So, I've got a lot of free time to research podcasts, so it's great for the podcasts. I'm doing it for the audience.
That's why, right? Yeah, so you can do it full time,
Yeah.
even though we don't have a Patreon or any kind of Acast monetizing system. Fran, great financial choice.
You're welcome, guys. And Babs, how are you doing?
I am good, although I've been getting a lot of FOMO because I didn't go to any festivals this year because I had so many trips, so many weddings, and it feels like everyone around me is going to them. So I know that you went to Victoria's, Fran. I had friends who went to Pukkelpop here in Belgium. I saw people posting about All Points East. So I'm like, right, there's a reason for it, but 2023, definitely I want to make up for lost time.
It was very good, Victorious.
Yeah, and you went to the Fringe as well, right? So
And I went to the Fringe.
Exciting. But in the midst of that, have you been listening to any music?
Yeah, so I've been listening to my all-time favorite band or artist, Billy Idol, and I like two Billy Idol songs. I like two Billy Idol songs. Randomly, I came across this new single called Cage with him and his guitar player Steven Stevens, I believe, and it's brilliant. And I did not expect to like a Billy Idol song in 2022.
Wow.
Check it out, guys. It's a post-punk anthem.
He's still looking good.
He's 66 years old and has hair somehow.
Well, there are ways. There is Turkey as a country. I have had some random discoveries this week. So I discovered a Portuguese band called 10,000 Russos, which means 10,000 Russians. And they're kind of very psychedelic-y, check out my homeland, etc., etc. And I've rediscovered that I think I've mentioned them on the podcast before. There's this Swedish band called Fuse, Fews.
Yeah.
And they have two incredibly solid albums that this is the problem with 21st century. I know the albums very well, but I find it difficult to pick out songs. I've never kind of sat down with them. But every time I put them on, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. And I should check them out more. But alas, I haven't really done that. I should.
And we are not alone today.
We are not alone. We have a ghost. No, we have we have a proper person.
A proper person. Thanks.
A proper
That's
person.
the best intro
not
I've had.
So welcome to the podcast, Mike Lash.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. What music have you been listening to, Mike?
Well, a lot of Royal Blood and 80s Matchbox Beeline disaster, funnily enough.
I wonder why. Yeah, it does happen, doesn't it? When before every podcast, I have to be like, what other music have I been listening to? I have to remember this for the podcast. And actually, we recorded the last episode last week, and I really haven't been listening to that much new music since then. But are you someone who's a bit kind of stuck in the past, Mike, or are you also down with the kids and listening to the new Billy Idol song?
I'm not listened to any Billy Idol for a while. I just listen to the radio a lot of the time, sort of Six Music, and then I'll sort of stick a track that I haven't heard on one of my playlists and then listen to those playlists at certain points. So yeah, I sometimes try and delve into a new band, but normally it's like I'll listen to maybe the singles or half an album and realize I'm too old for new music.
So obviously playlists are very important to you because you're from the Playlist Yeah podcast.
I am.
We've had your co-host Kerry Mitchell on before. What's your attitude to playlists? Like, do you like to do them thematically or by name, by vibe?
I have only sort of 6 playlists, and they're mostly kind of genre based. I have like my heavy playlist, my kind of cheesy pop playlist, a kind of electro poppy, cool, modern-ish playlist. It's hard to. It's very much.
If you describe it as cool, it must be very.
Oh,
cool.
absolutely. It's probably not. And what else do I have? An indie playlist that's actually quite new, but it's just now one of the biggest because I've been listening to indie for about 20 years. Which is just everything that's fairly straight down the road. Indie. And a sort of a more urban urban. I hate that word, but sort of hip hop and R&B kind of playlist as well.
The fact that you also said hip and didn't finish the hop, it's like I've got an urban hip playlist as well. Again, very cool. I mean, Fran, what's your attitude to playlists? Because I mean, we both love the playlist, and I know you like to do kind of the top tracks of artists, shall we say? But what's your vibe?
I still try and pretend that I'm making a mixtape. So I like to
for a lady.
So,
For a lady
or anyone. So I like to have like, a maximum of like 20 songs and keep it like tight and try and work out like the best of the best. Because otherwise I think if you get sent like a playlist and it's like 1,000 songs, it's like, oh God, where do I fucking start? And he does pick and choose the songs and he skips the rest, I find. So yeah, I've got a lot of the top 20 of like Bombay Basket Club, the top 20 of the Strokes, and the top 20 of etc. But I don't do genres. I don't have like an indie. I don't have like a getting down on it playlist. Is that what they're saying?
I think that's what they said.
That's definitely what they said at one point.
yeah. So I just have artists. I guess I do years. I did a pretty decent 2012 one recently. But yeah, how about yourself, Babs?
A bit of both. Like I have genre ones for genres that I don't listen to so much. So I have like a flamenco one and a jazz one where it's like, I really have to be in the mood, I would say, to listen to those particular genres. I got really obsessed with my 60s and 70s good/weird playlist because I realized that I knew very little 60s and 70s.
Can you give
music,
us some examples of who's on that one?
It's stuff like Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Betty Davis, but also, the Human League from the 70s, but also the Cars, but also like lots of kind of one-hit wonders, like You're the One by Fanny, You're Gonna Miss Me by the 13th Floor Elevators. So yeah, I got very obsessed with it because it was just very easy to find recommendations based on songs that I liked, and I discovered like a whole other world. I guess the most important playlist for me is my chilled playlist, in contrast to your heavy one, because most of the time I want to listen to not chilled music. And but when I do want to listen to chilled music, I really do. And that's got like 800 songs on it. So yeah. And I just put it on shuffle and off I go.
I actually have a chill playlist, and it's probably my smallest, but it's because my partner has a go at me for putting like music on when we're eating that's not chill, so I have to make something that's appropriate for eating too.
Eating playlist, yes.
and other things, but yeah. And I have to say this. I also have a playlist, a collaborative playlist with Kerry Mitchell, your former guest, which is the theme of our podcast playlist. Yeah.
I mean, of course, I was going to ask you to plug it at the end, but you can plug it at the beginning as well. Go for it.
So we just put a song on each, and the songs have to loosely be related in some way, whether it's name or lyric or a sound, a genre, a memory, some tenuous reason that has no real bearing 6 months down the line when we review our choice. So I actually do listen to that place. It's not just for podcast reasons.
How many songs at the moment?
We've just hit the 2,000 mark the other day.
Nice.
Wow.
And that's we started in early 2020, so yeah, that's in 2 years. So it's just nice. You kind of hit shuffle on it, go to a random point in the middle, and then turn the shuffle off and just listen for a while.
And is there nothing you skip at the moment? Is it all gold?
Oh no, I personally put more stuff on there that I might not like. I just think will work. Kerry, I think he also does that by putting stuff that he doesn't think I'll like, just to annoy me, or he'll put stuff on that he likes. So yeah, there's especially something that Kerry's put on, some obscure Welsh band from the early to mid noughties that he studied with.
Sounds about Kerry.
Yeah. Well, no, I like his band, but like there's many bands that he sort of played with and grew up with that are just like, yeah, fine, I'm not going to listen to this right now though. So.
Overrated.
But yeah, speaking of bands that you don't like, do you want to explain today's theme and the overrated and underrated acts you've picked, Mike?
Sure. Yeah. So for overrated, I've chosen Royal Blood, and underrated, I've chosen 80s Matchbox Beeline Disaster.
Linked by the theme of Brighton, although Mike did message me being like, by the way, they're from Worthing. So, I mean, for the ease of
Sussex.
categorization, for ease of categorization, Brighton Part 2, but we've already had a Best of Sussex episode, Mike, because we interviewed producer Ben Hampson, who I don't think has worked with Royal Blood, but he's worked with a lot of bands that, you know, they've toured with, and another producer has worked with other bands. So why have you picked Royal Blood as your overrated act today, Mike?
Yeah, so I've chosen Royal Blood because they get a lot of plaudits, they get a lot of radio play, and they critically people say because of their it's a bass and not a proper guitar, and it's really interesting and creative, but it's just the same sound in pretty much every song, especially in the early albums. And outside that crunching guitar sound, that is quite fun. Lyrically and vocally, it's very nothingy all the time. So I don't think they deserve that sort of, I suppose it's hard to say, because yes, like maybe repetitive music that I don't want to listen to that often is gonna get like Radio X or Radio 1 radio play, but it doesn't deserve it. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Like, I think it's a pretty classic overrated case, where it's like, it's not like they're, you know, global superstars, but definitely they have similar sounds to other bands, and they're much bigger than other similar bands. Yeah. Would you agree, Fran?
Yeah, I think they're getting 3 million plays on Spotify a month, which is kind of high. And like the headlining festival, so I saw them headlining Victorious last year. So, you know, they are on the big stage. I've got a feeling they're kind of popular in America. So
yeah, I mean, they're mates with now Josh Homme,
considering
right? So
a British band being in America. But yeah, I've seen them, I saw them live, and it was just that, like, it's impressive for a very short time. And after you've seen 4 or 5 songs, it's like, what else can you offer?
Yeah.
Fireworks, okay, you got fireworks. So like, yeah, and so unfortunately there is that, and a lot of people, if you're looking at YouTube today, every other comment is, do you know that he's playing a bass guitar?
yes.
And that's it. But that is fine for the first song.
Yeah.
But on album 3, well, what else can you bring to the table?
Yeah, it's just music. It's just, okay, you make it sound like a guitar and it's a bass, great, but what else you're doing, I guess it's creative because you've got all these pedals or whatever, but like it's not like Radiohead, it's just rock music done differently. So I had a similar, so my sort of early introduction to them was I heard them on probably Radio X or XFM as it was then, and I thought, okay, these guys are quite good, maybe listen to the album. And then I went to Glastonbury and was kind of they were on my list. I went to the John Peel stage, and it was the tent was heaving. I was right at the back with actually a couple of friends who aren't into any sort of mainstream pop music, but had read the blurb. Oh, he is a bassist and it sounds like a guitar, and so, oh, we were interested in this band. So, oh, really? We have similar music tastes, okay. And we were both completely bored after like 5 minutes, because it just it wasn't interesting. It was, I don't like a live band that sounds like it does on the record, because why would you see a live band? You might as well just put the CD on. And I think we left after about 15 minutes because it just did nothing for us.
It's funny you said that. So I saw Paolo Nutini last weekend, and he did Pence for the Lead in a different version, and people were literally going apeshit crazy out of anger that he doesn't play it as that the same as a CD. And that's the point. It's like, I think like proper fans of Paolo Nutini don't mind him changing up a little bit, but there's some people out there, they want to hear the CD version and nothing else. Don't you dare try and change anything you've written before. But Babs, we haven't come to you yet. What are your thoughts?
Well, one band that I kind of compare them with, and I feel very similarly on that, is Arctic Monkeys, who, I mean, I've only seen once, and I saw them back in the day, but they played all their songs exactly like on the album. I was like, really, what's the point of this? But yeah, I'll come back to Arctic Monkeys in a second. But yeah, I think, as I said, I think it's a pretty classic overrated case where, you know, I don't hate them, I don't wish them ill, but it just mystifies me why they're so big compared to other bands. I knew, it was big Spotify numbers, Fran, and it is impressive how big they sound. I haven't seen them live, so I don't know if I would take them or not. I didn't really find any of their big songs particularly fantastic, so I have 1 or 2 songs saved, maybe 1 or 2 that are on the playlist, but I was just like, oh, they're fine. And I compare them with Arctic Monkeys because it does remind, like, I don't really like post debut album Arctic Monkeys. I think they're wildly overrated, but they're just like, yeah man, but they're just making rock music. And interestingly, there is a link with Arctic Monkeys because while they were developing their sound, they joined Warner Chappell Music, which is the same management company as Arctic Monkeys. And in 2013, the drummer Matt Helders was seen wearing a royal blood shirt during the Glastonbury set, which I think was part of it. And I think I'm going to get into it more with individual songs. I think it's because they had that gimmick and came at a particular time, because reading reviews of especially their first album, the way that people talk about them, it's kind of like, oh, they have come at the time to show us how to do rock and roll. And I'm like, well, there's plenty of other people doing that, so I think it's that. I have to mention the Charlie XCX connection, because if there is one, I'm going to mention it. So Mike Kerr used to go out with Charlie XCX, and I found out today that in her song Party For You, she talks about someone being born on the 19th of June, which is apparently his birthday. So there we go. Interesting pairing there. And I enjoyed his contributions in the Desert Sessions. I don't know if you've heard the latest one, but there's a song called Crucifier where he has lead vocal, and Jake Shears from Scissor Sisters is doing back. It's a really great song. And yeah, I have many feelings about Josh Homme now, but at least for Desert Sessions, there's other people there. And it's a really, I prefer that Mike Kerr also, I thought, before listening to this. So yeah, I came in thinking, probably Mike's going to pick some big songs and I'm not going to enjoy them very much, but let's see how it goes. Mike, what's your first pick?
First pick is a big song. It's Little Monster. I chose, I think it's one of the first singles. It was probably the first song that I heard. So that's the sort of the introduction to them. And I would have heard it on radio or XFM. And the running theme opens on a crunching guitar, maybe more so than some of the other early singles. And you're like, okay, this is great. And then vocally, it's just devoid of anything interesting. It sounds auto-tuned. It just doesn't. And the guitars get sort of turned down for the verses. So it's like, well, okay, maybe you just want me to, because our next band, I'm going to speak about how when sometimes the guitars get turned down so you can hear the lyrics, but the lyrics are kind of fine, nothing. I'm not a lyrics guy like yourself, Babs, but or Fran, yeah. But yeah, it's just, he's just talking about a girl that he's with who he nicknames Little Monster by the sounds of it. So yeah, but it's just, what is it doing? And it's this great guitar, and then I'm bored straight away.
I think that they are like the modern day AC/DC.
I've written that. Yeah, that's in my notes.
They've got a riff and they will use it, and that's literally although this song sounds a bit like Queen of Stone Age, it's in Mexicola a little bit, and I just remember this being on Guitar Hero, and looking at Wikipedia, they seem to have a song on every single computer game, which is kind of a good tactic to make a lot of money and to get people into it. But this is literally the bog standard song by Royal Blood, and once you've heard this, so far you've kind of heard everything. It's going to be an interesting chat. I think I'm repeating the same phrases again and again.
It's kind of really hard but really easy to choose the 5 songs, because I can just choose any 5 because it just doesn't make any difference.
I actually didn't realize that I knew this song, and the way that I knew this song, I think, was as a bed for several Radio X shows that I listened to. So when it came on, I was like, oh, this one. And yeah, for me, it's not particularly overplayed. I haven't lived in the UK since 2012. Maybe that's why. I think Figure It Out and 10 Ton Skeleton are way more overplayed and way more annoying. I actually enjoyed it. It didn't blow my mind, but I did enjoy it. And I enjoyed reading about the album. So most of the album was recorded in one take, which is surprising, I think, when you hear that. And yeah, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about reviews of this album. And yeah, people were like, for what feels like eons, anyone with more than a passing interest in rock music, proper rock music, has not so quietly been praying for a savior, a homegrown concern who might have a chance of punching through to prove that Britain can still raise hell. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh yeah, sorry. Their faith is rewarded. Royal blood will save us all. Calm down, like really calm down. And then someone else from NME said, okay, it might not revolutionize rock music, but it, you know, it's it has the potential to extend the boundaries of rock. And then Carrier Gibson from The Guardian said she compared them to Death from Above and The Vines, which I'm like,
no,
way better bands. But she said she compared the album's guitar riffs to the sound of Jack White drunk at a saloon bar. It's heavy and hefty enough to crown them kings of the commercial rock scene, but then who is going to stand in their way? So I thought this was all very telling of, like, you know, rock is starting to lose prominence once again. There's this band, it's two people, it's in your face. I think, yeah, that and probably the association with Arctic Monkeys is maybe one of the reasons why they became so
and
big.
like the Arctic Monkeys, we're waiting for a new indie band to come through. And they sort of came through in like the mid-noughties, which was the second wave of like indie music after Britpop. So it's like, they're around at the right time.
It's interesting because I feel like the UK has a bit of a weird relationship with noisier rock. You know, obviously Brighton, we've talked about Blood Red Shoes. And I think they very much feel that because they have a heavier sound and because they're more influenced by kind of US noise rock bands, that they were more difficult to categorize and less popular. And I'm like, well, you know, the pure rock sound of Royal Blood is not too far away from that. And yet it works.
As a fan of Queen of the Stone Age and Jack White, who are obviously big influences, I thought you'd be more of a fan of Royal Blood. Or can you not hear it?
Well, you have to see how this playlist develops.
Tease me.
I will.
Mike, what's your next track?
Next track is Out of the Black, which I think was the first single. And the first few singles all came from an EP. Was it the Out of the Black EP? And then they were also on the first album, and then the next two were from the album. And again, I mean, as I was saying, it's quite formulaic. There's crunching opening guitars, which really gets you like, this is gonna be awesome. And then he's just like, how does it feel? And what do more? It's so much promise in those opening few bars, and then it's just kind of repeated, and there's a few jugga bits, and it's again, you're not sure what he's singing about, but it's probably about drugs, I think. Marriage, he talks about vows in there, so maybe it's marriage. And again, it's just like a really promising song, maybe slightly less poppy than Little Monster, but and I don't know, was it sort of released on an EP before they were as sort of big? I don't know, because I didn't hear it first.
I think they were on an indie label when the EP came out, then they got re-signed to Warner Brothers for the album.
So yeah, I kind of see why it was the first single, but I can also see why it wasn't maybe as commercially successful as the later ones. But yeah, it's just so much promise, and then it's just him singing boringly over the quieter versions of his guitar. And I'm calling it a guitar. I know it's a bass guitar, but it's still a guitar, so I'm not going to correct myself every time.
So yeah, it's quite a statement for a first single. It sounds great, but again, after a while it gets boring, which is why I discovered the music video today, because the music video is incredible. And I was like,
it's absolutely incredible. And neither Mike or I had seen it before.
Like in a world far away from MTV, it's quite bizarre to have a band spending that amount of time on a promotional video, which barely anyone watches. But yeah, give out a watch, guys. It's far more interesting than the song. But yeah, it's the same thing again. I don't want to keep copy and pasting what I'm going to say, but yeah. Although we mentioned drugs, I heard Mike Kerr on Edison John's podcast, How Do You Cope, because he's now completely sober, because he's spiraled down into like a drug and alcohol. So it's quite surprising after 3 or 4 years the band's been going, that he's already hit that point, and that people are looking after him, because, you know, most people who are in, I guess, mid-20s would be embarrassed to say they've got a problem, you know, because that's kind of like the cliche rock and roll life. So I'm surprised, that he's already come out saying he's got a problem. So well done to that, Mike Kerr. But Babs, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I'll mix it up. So this is a song that I knew and liked and saved beforehand. I really like how it starts, and for me, it delivers. Like the riffs are The riffs are plentiful. And I like how it ends in a way that you don't expect. I called it like a 2-part middle 8. I don't know if that's the correct term, but that's what I'm calling it. And vocally, yeah, it's interesting, Mike, that you say that you don't like his vocals. I like his voice, and I thought this one showed a bit more versatility. Like I really especially like the "you made a fool out of me and took the skin off my back running." Like you feel it in a way, and because it's building on that comes after kind of the first verse where it's kind of gone down and then up and then down. I quite like it, but again, it's not overplayed for me because I don't listen to Radio X that much, and yeah, I just listened to this one. This is I think this is a great song. So yeah, I'm not with you on this one.
What's up next?
So I went to the second album. I mean, I had to choose 2 of the singles from the first album. I thought it's better to sort of spread out to my choices over the other albums. So I went with Lights Out. I think it's the lead single, one of the big singles from the second album. It's like similar formula. They haven't experimented too much with the second album. And it's just, there's some interesting bits in there, but the verses and the bridge are boring. The chorus is okay. And I think this, for me, it kind of proves that that what you're doing with the bass guitar is really interesting, but it's limiting because you can't do that much with it because there's 4 strings. I don't know anything about music, but there's 4 strings, and I'm still not hearing anything different or interesting in your second 2 albums.
Is this bass a 4-string bass?
Yes.
Because there are obviously 5 and 6.
In the video, it's 4 strings. Although Ash had 3 strings and did okay.
Did they?
Did not notice that?
Did they not have a guitarist as well though?
Yeah. But 3 is the lowest amount of strings I've ever seen on a bass guitarist. I can't get the song in my head. If I think of the band, I instantly hear the chorus to Lights Out. I can't think of the chorus to any other song apart from Lights Out all day. So, although doing some research, this is co-written with their support band.
Yeah, I saw that.
But like, there's 2 instruments. What was the other guy? What was he doing?
It's picking up, being like, "What about this?"
So, yeah, I like the stuttering chorus, like the sort of riff. It's maybe for me their best song. Again, that part sounds like Jack White a lot. If I had to pick a song off this playlist, I think this is probably them at their best. And there's a tiny bit of electronics, I think, as well. They're kind of trying to progress from the first album, but only slightly. But yeah, I don't hate it.
I thought this was a much cleaner sound, and I kind of liked the scuzz, but I liked the harmonies, and there were parts of the song that I really liked. It took me a few listens. Fran, you said you had it in your head. Once again, as with many things on this podcast, I can't really remember what it sounds like because I prepared this morning and I listened to it 3 times, but it's now gone. What really lets it down is the guitar solo in it. That really is like, 80s Matchbox. Oh my God, I think they do them so well. Spoiler. Royal Blood should not do it, but I did by the end like it. I've saved it and I will listen to it again. So once again, Mike, you're making me like them a bit more than I thought.
The guitars, there's the bit where it goes, yeah, and it sounds like Bell Bottoms by John Spencer Blues Explosion. You guys know that? Yeah. There's a drum. There's a exciting drum bit where where it goes to that wow guitar, as you just said, and it's just. You're like, oh, cool guitar solo now. No, it's gonna just repeat what I'm doing. Go no, and it's just like, well, don't waste a solo. Just don't do a solo if you're just gonna repeat what you're doing.
Are they stuck with their formula? Like, would people allow them to have, like, how Keane sneaked in a bass player after a while? Like, think they will have to at one point, like, bring up it because you can't do that forever.
Blood Red Shoes as well. They sneaked in a keyboardist and if not a bass player, another guitar player.
Because they've got to do something moving forward. Because it's like, how much can you really do? I know obviously the White Stripes did a lot, but after a while he was playing piano, wasn't he? So
yeah.
Well, I mean, the next song, Mike, is from the latest album.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is Trouble's Coming, and this is where they try and do something a bit different. It opens. So the album's called Typhoons. And it opens. It sounds like a fairly recent Franz Ferdinand song. Is it? And Right Action, I think it's called. Maybe not. And they're trying to do something different. It's more groovy, more funky. It's poppier than the first albums, and I'd say that their sound generally is just sort of fairly generic pop music with crunching guitars. But this is even poppier because of that. But I think it takes away what makes them who they are. So they're trying to move forward, but then they're taking away their identity, and they just sound like a modern indie band that would have a groove sound instead of a crunch sound.
Yeah, I think I think I heard this last year live, and I thought, okay, they're trying something different. Like, it is kind of like Daft Punk rock, isn't it, kind of thing? Like, it's got more of a groove to it. There's more keyboards. It's fucking repetitive, really repetitive. Then I discovered on YouTube that there's a K-pop band called Xdina Heroes or something, and they're fucking huge, and they've covered it. But there's 4 guys in the band, and their cover seems weaker than Royal Blood's 2.
Oh.
So it does
wow.
sound like Royal Blood are able to do something. But yeah, I could easily not hear the song again. Yeah, I'm not a fan of groovy Royal Blood, unfortunately.
I love how you went down a K-pop rabbit hole, Fran.
You know
Natural
me,
extension
got
of
K-pop waiver.
Since Reggie came on, this is what's happened. Again, I'm at total odds with you guys. I was like, okay, I had no idea they could sound like this. I wrote that it's been injected with disco, and it wrong-footed me. Like, again, it took me a couple of listens. I don't think it evolves in the way that you expect it. Whereas, as much as I like Out of the Black, okay, apart from the 2-part medley, whatever it is, like, it's a fairly traditional song. This goes off in lots of different directions, and I thought it was a great song, rock, disco, and pop in one, and a natural evolution of their sound. Like, I think, whereas with Lights Out, I'm like, okay, they have something a bit different, but there I don't like it so much, and I especially don't like the guitar solo. I think here it
You're
works.
entitled to that incorrect opinion.
And what's your final track?
My final track is a song which I don't think they wrote, called My Sharona.
I don't think so.
So I found this on Spotify. It's on a Spotify sessions thing, and I just think it just perfectly sums them up. They've got a very fun song that most normal people should love, and they've got a very distinct sound. Royal Blood, when Royal Blood are playing, so you think, okay, they're going to inject their identity onto this, and it just kind of fails, in my opinion. It sounds like kind of similar to the original, but with the slightly crunchier sound. But there's nothing new vocally or musically, and it's like they've got no personality. I think I wrote, as a band, it's like someone's put an algorithm as to what is a great rock band into an AI, and it's like crunching guitars and auto-tuned vocals.
Is it auto-tuned?
It just sounds auto-tuned. He doesn't have enough personality in his voice. I know you like the bit in Lights Out, but it's just I love this song. What have they done with it? I know that happens a lot with covers, but they've done nothing with it. There's no identity there. It's just someone with a slightly heavier guitar playing exactly the way that it was written.
To be fair, it's quite impressive that he can sing and play that at the same time, because his riffs are pretty intense. To be able to sing a different top line, I'm always impressed with. But yeah, this came on, and I thought, when Spotify like chooses a song like the last one you heard, I thought, oh, that's weird. Why have a knack attached to Royal Blood? I thought, hang on, yeah. But yeah, it's uninspired, mainly because like my favorite part of My Sharona is the guitar solo, which they can't do.
Exactly. Why would you do that? Like, here I'm with you. Although I will say, there's kind of like an echo in his voice. He sounds a bit distant. That I liked. Apart from that, what the fuck are they adding to this? Like, really, it's just they're playing it exactly the same. They don't do the best bit. What is the point? So yeah, that great inclusion for Overrated.
I think this is Live Lounge, and Live Lounge to me, working in it.
That's live from Spotify.
Well, no, but it's also in Live Lounge. I went on YouTube, and like most things in Live Lounge, they're fun to listen to once, and that's it.
Yeah,
and
unless you're the automatic doing your version of Gold Digger, which I could listen to.
But maybe there's like a couple working in HMV, hearing the fucking Live Lounge, see this on repeat. There's only maybe literally 1 or 2 digit ones.
I think like a version by Triple J is better.
Yes, I agree. Australian version wins for me. But yeah, My Sharona is a very uninspired cover, unfortunately. Yeah. So are we going to ask the big question, Babs?
I think we are. Fran, is Royal Blood overrated?
Oh yes. Because I feel like, I like rock music. So when I saw them live, I was waiting to be like, okay, I'm going to get blown away by the best band in the UK, and I was like, oh, is Noel Rodgers on the other stage? And I ran off to see Noel Rodgers and had a brilliant time. I danced for the last hour, and that's it. You know, they're fine on a soundtrack or played in a montage. Yeah, great, but I would never sit down and listen to a full album because it's just the same again and again and again and again.
So controversially, I think when Mike suggested it, I was like, yes, absolutely, Royal Blood, Overrated. Like, I don't like their biggest songs. Mike, a lot of the songs that you picked, I really enjoyed. And I can't, it's difficult because definitely they have so many listens, but I really feel like I need to go and explore them some more because I think there is more out there for me. I enjoy his voice. I enjoy the sound. So I'm afraid I can't call them overrated today. Surprisingly, it really, as I was into this playlist, I was like, oh no, I'm enjoying this. Mike's not going to be happy. So yeah, sorry, Mike, but you didn't make a fool out of me. You made a fan out of me.
Did you write that down beforehand?
I didn't. I literally just thought, oh yeah. Funny bones and like a 10-ton skeleton, and I'm going to stop now.
But unfortunately, two of us said overrated, so it's
it's
lights out for Babs.
Hey.
And we can move on.
Boom.
Hello, this is a promo for a podcast about a playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Playlist. Yeah. My name's Mike Lash, former actor, former comedian, former creative, former cool dude. This is
Kerry Mitchell, former musician, former art student, current cool dude.
We've created a playlist, a fucking brilliant playlist.
The best playlist ever, to the point where we spoke to each other about how good the playlist is, and that we wanted to be the people at a party who's putting on the music and only putting on a few seconds of the music before changing the song, because everyone loves those guys at a party.
That's us. So each week we have a guest and they have to choose one song to define them as a human person. One song for me, Mike Lash, to sing right at them.
And then, because Mike is not the best person in his family, we've incorporated his mum to give her insight into each song, which will maybe help the guest to define themselves as a person.
But really, we probably shouldn't get bogged down in the format of the podcast. It's really heavily edited, so it's not actually that boring. It's quite short, so I really think you'll like it. Kerry's kids are home, so it's probably the end of this promo.
It is. What was it? www.playtheshare.com, and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Underrated.
Mike, welcome back to part 2. Who have you picked as your underrated act?
Eighties Matchbox Beeline Disaster.
A mouthful.
Yes. Or 80s Matchbox, as it's easier to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this band. I can give you my story of how I fell in love with the band, but
Please do.
I started going to Reading Festival in like 2002, and I didn't have that deeper knowledge of music outside sort of mainstream rock. I was like 17, 18 years old, but I'd see them like listed because they're such a memorable name. I'd see them listed on Carling stages, which is like the new band stages. Never saw them in my first couple of Readings, and then I think I just popped in at the very end of the set. It's probably the first track we're going to discuss that they ended on, and was just like, this is fantastic. And then they ended, and I was like, oh no.
Shit.
Shit. So I think I probably a while later, I went out and bought their second album. It's probably the only one that was in HMV, and absolutely fell in love with it. And it's just kind of my soundtrack to uni, because it was one of those albums that I bought at uni at the same time as the Ordinary Boys' first album.
But we're not here to talk about Ordinary Boys.
No.
Go away, Preston.
So yeah, I was in love with that second album, and then yeah, obviously just I went back and bought the first album and loved that, and probably love that more now. And I've seen them a bunch of times. And one of my favorite gigs was one of their reunion gigs at the Electric Ballroom, which I went with my podcast mate Kerry. So the first time I saw one song, the second time actually with Kerry again and a friend from uni, we went to the Purple Turtle and we were faffing about on the tube. We're getting there from Uxbridge, which is the end of the tube line, and also for our international listeners, the London Underground train network,
colloquially known as the tube. Yeah.
And we arrived there late, and you know when you get to a gig and you're not in the right frame of mind and you feel like you've missed out, and there was something not quite right in my enjoyment of it. And then I went again with all these with Kerry. No, not always. Again, we got tickets to see System of a Down at Brixton Academy and had no idea that 80s Matchbox were supporting, and it was just like, whoa.
That's a random booking.
They've supported quite a lot of big commercial heavier bands.
How did the fans react to them?
I don't remember them not liking them. I think we were probably into them a bit more than most.
Pretty in your face.
Yeah.
Especially guys screaming lyrics. So I imagine that would be Systems vibes.
Yeah. And you know, when you like the support band, you go to the front in this sort of mini mosh pit and no one else is paying attention. So you just notice what's going on around you, and you don't realize that there's another 3,000 people who don't give a crap. And then I saw them when their third album was out at Garage, and that was quite new album. There's a lot on there, which I don't like the third album as much. It is it's grown on me a lot, but I haven't chosen any songs from there.
I already questioned my was like, is there? Yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing this because I have opinions, but yeah. So that was great, and I remember moshing hard and really enjoying it. But that reunion gig at the Electric Ballroom, I was about 30 years old. I knew I was old enough to know my moshing limits, but young enough to still go for it. And it was one of my favorite gigs of all time. It's absolutely brilliant.
So did Guy do anything outrageous? Like, I heard rumors that he's got amazing live, but why? What happens at a gig?
I mean, it's just crowd surfing, really. I mean, I don't remember anything specific. I'm sure I remember accidentally touching his like balls or something.
I was like, what body part is coming?
Yeah, you know when he's like over you and you're just like, oh no, that wasn't nice. But for either of us,
it's a social media clip, by the way, Fran. Because I know I'm going to have a similar opinion to Mike. I think, Fran, what's your views on 80s Matchbox?
So, as an enemy reader back in 2002, they're the kind of band who would always be like there, and obviously they got a striking appearance. Like he had like tight, long black hair, really gaunt, and obviously the name's bonkers. And they came out at the same time as the Cooper Temple Claws, who also had a weird name and a certain image. So I kind of feel like it's the same band, but on two different drugs. Does that mean like the uppers and the downers?
Well, do you know that? So they gave up drugs after their first. So 3 of them became Buddhist and gave up drugs. So that's what they have in common with Royal Blood as well.
But yeah, so when Babs mentions them, I think, right, I know the name, but there must be a reason why I don't know songs, because I would have tried them out back in the day. So yeah, I listened to the playlist and I knew only one song. From the playlist, and then when I watched the video, okay, that's right, because a famous director did it. But yeah, so yeah, I knew nothing really about the background. Babs sent me a link to Nevermind Buzzcocks, and I remember that episode as well, but forgot all about it.
Oh, I need to rewatch that.
And there's also a kind of awkward interview from a Dutch magazine from 2003 when I can't tell if they're taking a piss at themselves because they seem a bit dim. Like
one of the YouTube comments is like, "This is pure Nathan Barley."
Yeah, I'm like, are they taking a piss at themselves? I don't know. I don't know the bands, but yeah, for a band with that image and that look and that name, they're so fucking ordinary sort of people, aren't they? Like, there's no mystique at all.
But isn't everyone like? I used to get disappointed, like when I saw the Horrors interviewed, and I thought, well, but they sound normal middle class, but they look like ghosts, and it's just, oh yeah, of course. Like, what do you expect them to do? I'm the 80s Matchbox beeline guy.
Well, I guess there's a few bands who do that. Yeah, and I thought it was quite nice that they put on the gig to buy a Brighton football player when they had 2002 when Brighton was really struggling, they put on a gig to pay for a new player.
Oh,
That was
Elton
the
John
whole-
did that for Watford as well. He bought Troy Deeney.
So I was not expecting that at all. But yeah, and then I suddenly realised that they also play an important scene in Shaun of the Dead as well. But
Yeah.
that's my history of 80s Matchbox Beyond Disaster.
So to counter that, honestly, this is one of the bands I've been the most excited to talk about, because I would probably say they're one of my favorite bands, although, you know, some deep digging on Discogs made me think actually maybe I don't know them as well as I do, which is very surprising because they're not my kind of vibe. You know, there's definitely something a bit psychobilly-ish or gothabitty, as Wikipedia puts it. And I saw a YouTube comment which was like, oh god, the horrors ripped these guys off, which I'm like, oh, of course, like I didn't even think about it because I think of them as the same time, but no, they're around before that. And Mike, I am so jealous that you saw that System of a Down gig, because that is like System of a Down are another favorite band of mine, so I'm like, oh, mind blown. And there's a compilation that they made for that gig. So they made the CD compilation, which was given out on that gig, and you cannot find it online. And I think it has songs that aren't anywhere else. And I went on, I spent a lot of money on Discogs yesterday, and I was trying to find it, and it's like 3 people on the whole of Discogs own it. Anyway, I really kind of geeked out. I don't know when I got into them. I don't know if it was right at the beginning. I don't know whether it was from seeing, you know, the Psychosis Safari video on Music TV, but I think their first 2 albums especially are perfect. Like there's not one bad song on there I listened through, and that's very, very rare for me, for any bands. I like their visuals. I quite fancied Guy McKnight and the bassist Sim Gariel, who he's on the 22 Grand Pod, by the way. I don't know if you know that. So Simran Gariel, and he's quite a sort of grumpy man on social media, sometimes entertaining. And I really like them, despite, you know, them seemingly on the surface being quite macho assholey, you know, lots. It's like so many songs on Horse of the Dog. It's like, fight like a man, be a man, and you don't know how much of it is kind of piss taking or not. And that, it's not, but just musically, I absolutely love them. And I got to see them at Concord 2 in 2012. I think because Mike, the Electric Ballroom gig was sold out, so I took the day off work to go and see them in Brighton, which was great because it was kind of a hometown gig. And yeah, I think they have something like 21,000 Spotify listens, really low. And again, maybe easy comparisons with the Horrors, but even that, like, okay, yeah, sure, first album of the Horrors, but it's not quite the same. There's something else going on there.
The Horrors are kind of a bit more punky, I think. This band a bit more psychedelic.
Well, in that Dutch interview, like he was talking about, like, because their influences, they sound pretty classic. It's like, Nirvana, Pixies, blah blah blah. But I think they were saying that, with drugs, like it got a bit more psychedelic-y, and I'm like, I can hear elements of that, and occasionally there's a weird instrument or effect. But with Royal Blood, I was saying that, a lot of their songs wrong footed me. Like, I think every single 80s Matchbox song wrong foots me, apart from maybe the bigger singles, because they're more melodic. But no, I absolutely love this band. I wish they were bigger, and I am looking forward to getting into your playlist, Mike.
Awesome. Do you want me to go into the first song?
Let's do it.
Please.
Right. The first song I've chosen is Mr. Mental. So this song was in that scene in Shaun of the Dead. So I chose this first, probably because it's the song that if anyone knows a song, I'd imagine it would be this, if you're not into your sort of dark alternative music. And I was a big Shaun of the Dead fan, but it didn't sort of register that this was them until quite a few years later. So this was always a song I really enjoyed on the album, but it was only when I either read it or I rewatched Shaun of the Dead, I was like, oh my God. It's just, it kind of defines the sound. It's just, it's really complex. I mean, comparing it to Royal Blood, they do so much with...
In such a short space of time,
it's
right?
such a short space of time. And I wrote that there's an interesting woohoo backing vocal, which is reminiscent of Zombies, which might be why it was chosen for that scene. And he does just lots of weird guitar-y things throughout, which just, as you said, just kind of throws you off. And lyrically, it's do you suffer from mental? It's just the wording. It's just great.
Is the lead guitar player the one he left, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so he would have left before. Did he leave after the first album or after the second?
I think he's on the second album. Yeah.
I think he might be like on some songs on the second album, but
Was the third album completely changed because he wasn't on it? Was he the main guy of the band, or?
I don't think so, because I think it was a reasonably collaborative effort, especially because I don't know if you read about this, but it's like, when they reformed in 2012, 2013, it was with a view to kind of make more music together, but they were like, we just don't have the same music taste anymore, apparently. And there's loads and loads of side projects that I'm gonna come and talk about, one of them especially. But yeah, so Fran, you didn't know this, right? Or you didn't realize this was Shaun of the Dead either?
When I heard it, I thought I didn't know it, and then when I read the scene, I thought, oh yeah, okay, that's that song from that scene.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have linked that band to that scene at all. But yeah, to me, it sounds like The Damned covering Elvis, like.
Yeah.
And then when I watched the documentary, he's got an Elvis poster in the background.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
maybe that is the style. It's a bit of a crooner, like a dark crooner kind of thing. But yeah, it's not. I'm going to keep saying this. It's not really for me, but I know that if I was in a sweaty Brighton club, I'd enjoy it. I'd enjoy the show, and I think that's where I need to be for this. I need to be watching them do it live. I feel like when I'm sat in a hot sunny afternoon listening to it, it's not really, it's not the sort of music I can make a salad to.
That's a new playlist for you. Music you can make a salad to.
But I can listen to it fine. I've listened to it maybe 6 times today, but I wouldn't go out of my way to put it on.
Yeah, I will say that I think it's a great song. I like the way it's structured. I like the harmonies, and again the weird middle eight with the spooky harmonies that you were talking about. And I'd never really, again, this is what happens when you actually kind of sit down to analyze it, thought about his voice, because like you, Fran, I wrote it crooner, but like right on the edge of crooner and parody, like Electric Six, which we discussed on your podcast. Like, I was like, yeah, it's a similar thing where you're like, this band definitely have a sense of humor, and that's what I liked about them. But yeah, it's really right on the edge. And I think in one of the interviews that I listened to, I think Simran was like, yeah, he just really sounds like, sometimes with Guy when he's singing, it's just coming out of his soul. And yeah, you see him in the rehearsals and he's really fucking going for it. And yeah, I kind of, whether he's low or high or being spooky or not, I really like it. I think it's a really good choice for a single for this album. I would say it's maybe not one of my favorites from this album, but again,
me neither. I agree.
Like every song.
Yeah.
And yeah, on the lyrics, I really want to talk about them because I thought they were a bit gauche. Again, like, I was never a fan of 80s Matchbox lyrics, really. But I had actually heard Guy's band DSM-4. I don't know if either of you kind of heard of or heard, but fucking hell, right? They have a song called Scumbag. And so he talks about like, mental health problems still carry so much stigma. Illness is part of the human condition and the reality of life and death. It's not something to be looked down on. And I was like, okay, this is pretty serious. Scumbag is about the child sexual abuse that he suffered. And he literally says, being born into a culture of violence and silence, I've had to rebuild myself after a necessary breakdown I had after remembering that I'd been abused. This coincided with me getting clean and sober. Even though they were separated, both my parents did the best they could despite their own mental health issues. In the case of my dad, addictions, they loved me dearly and never abused me, but I experienced long-term sexual abuse from the ages of 3 to 14 at the hands of another relative and in-laws. And I was like, fucking wow, like, I did not expect any statement like this to come from the mad guy with the mad looking guy with the long hair. But I'm like, oh, no, okay, you know what, like, yeah, maybe they are a bit gauche, but clearly it's, he's, that's how he feels, and that's how it was. And yeah, that song, it's quite long, Scumbag, but I really recommend checking it out. It's more synthy, Fran, it's way more up your street. DSM-4 are way more up your street than.
Does he still have the same singing style? Was he changed over?
Yeah, no, it is still the same singing style, but there are synths.
Well, I guess it explains his primal screams. He's got that anger inside him.
Yeah. But what's impressive though is because unlike Mike, I don't think the third album is as good as the first two, but I think half of it is as good. And I have a playlist which is my top 105 songs, and there are 2 songs on there. I know, because I couldn't pick. And I was like, I'm going to expand it into 200 because then I can just add a shit ton more. And yeah, one of them is Man for All Seasons from that third album, and I really love it. But yeah, it kind of you know, I'm obviously sorry for him that he's had to go through this, but I'm like, oh, I'm glad that he's worked through it, and it makes the misogynist videos and the misogynist looks that they have, you know, yeah, I'm a bit more forgiving of them maybe.
Thinking about it, we never stocked any of our albums in my history of working in retail.
Oh, I mean, I definitely, like Mike, went out and bought both of them in a record shop.
Because, like, yeah, those
Yeah.
covers were quite weird. I would have recognized that easily. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. Were they on a tiny label? What was...
So they had a label called No Death Records, which I think they kind of set up. But you know that, well, is the second album on Spotify for either? Because it's not for me.
Yeah,
and it
well,
never
yeah,
has been.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
three.
it's not, you know, but well, actually, that CD disappeared. Like, I don't even have the box or the CD, so I've had to order it again. Very 80s Matchbox stalker. I don't know. And reading about it, I think, I don't know exactly what happened with their first album, but they were signed to either Island or Warner. I think Island. And the second album did better than the first one, but it didn't do as well, and then they dropped them. So I was thinking, like, maybe that's why, at least in Belgium, it's not available.
Fair enough. So,
Yeah.
should we move on to
From
the next-
mental to a synonym for it.
Next song is Psychosis Safari, which this is one of the, I don't think it's the first single, but it's one of the singles from the first album. It's just so complex. It just goes in so many different directions. There's this great vocal distortion on the song, and then I love the bit, is it about halfway through where he does that effect on his voice where it sounds like he's singing in a tunnel. It's like your heart's in your mouth and your mind's in a look around and I believe in it. It's just fantastic. And you know, so most of their songs, it's not very verse chorus, but this one's like, which bit's the chorus? Is it the heart's in your mouth, or you're feeling way through the dark, or I won't get it? So that's the bridge. It just takes you on a great journey, probably through a drink or drugs trip, I guess.
Yeah, and Fran is thinking, like, yeah, maybe I needed to have taken some before listening to this.
I recognize the song and the video, especially with that car, which was that was a real car as well.
Yeah,
for a
they
bit, I
had.
think.
It's called the Gonzo or something like that.
Yeah.
The concept. But yeah, it's enjoyable. It's like a stomping glam doom sort of
Glam
like feel to it. Like it's glam.
Love it.
Yeah, it's got that feel. But like again, I put it here, the Cooper Temple Claws on a different drug. Yeah, I would say this is the best song on the playlist. Is this their most well-known song apart from the one?
I would say so. I think because the music video is directed by Edgar Wright. So yeah, as well, which makes me think, you know, why were they not more famous when he put them in? And again, going back to the Brighton theme, he put Getting Boring by the Sea by Blood Red Shoes and Scott Pilgrim, and like it is their most popular song by a mile, and like they're like, it's got loads of plays recently and we don't know why. So you know, it had that effect of Blood Red Shoes, but not for 80s Matchbox. I again love this song, gothabilly sounding pop with riffs, and I can't believe they weren't in the Mighty Boosh actually, because they would have been a perfect band for. I think
I saw, was it the Mighty Boosh took over something on MTV maybe or XFM, and they chose, I can't remember what song it is, but they chose an 80s Matchbox song to play. And I remember, I think the first time I saw Guy, I thought he's just a less attractive version of Noel Fielding.
I think he's, well, yeah, like Noel Fielding's a bit more, I guess, like perfect, you know, symmetrical. Guy McKnight, he reminded me a bit of Richard Ashcroft, the same kind of cragginess in the face, but I quite like that. So
even without the hair,
I prefer without the hair than with the moustache and beard that he now has, which I don't like so much. A bit like Frank Zappa vibes, not so much for me. And yeah, I never knew what he was saying in the chorus, so I actually wrote it down, because it's like I just go like, oh, mana, tied up, and I was like, oh yeah, it's quite catchy. But yeah, probably about drugs. But I don't care. I think it's great. And sometimes I have a real issue with music videos, especially when, you know, if the story they're telling kind of overrides the song, it puts me off, because I don't know, I can't pay attention to the music so much, but I think Edgar Wright paces this perfectly. Like it's really nice, in and out, put your 3D glasses on. Good job all around, guys. Mike, what is your third pick?
My third pick is Rise of the Eagles. So this is the song that I remember hearing on the radio on late night XFM, more than likely. So I think that if we're trying to win new fans of 80s Matchbox, this is the song to go with, because it's kind of chorus verse, it's a bit more accessible musically. It's not quite as complicated, but it's just really fun. A sort of like maybe a pastiche about preparing for death. It's just a catchy kind of fun song that is maybe a good gateway song into the band. I think it should have got a lot more attention. I mean, it's the one I remember from the radio, so I'm not much of a music video guy. So maybe if people are watching MTV2, they knew Psychosis Safari. But for me, this was the sort of their radio song. I wouldn't say it's in their like top 5, well, my top 5 or their top 5 best songs by far. But I think if we're gonna state the case that they're underrated, I think it shows that they can do poppier stuff rather than crazy psychosis-y mental stuff as well.
It's got quite a striking music video.
I love and hate the music video.
So I can imagine it being played on MTV2, but yeah, for me, it sounds a bit like the Cramps. I can hear the Horrors copying this. It's a bit too repetitive for me, maybe. But yeah, I quite like the all dressed up and ready to go. But yeah, I wouldn't expect this to be a hit personally.
That's interesting because I've written it's one of the catchiest drum hooks in the biz. Like, like it's simple, but it's effective. And it's funny that you say it's repetitive. Like, okay, yes, they do say, I want to fly like an eagle a lot of times, but it changes so much that for me, it absolutely works. And like you, Fran, the all dressed up and ready to go. It's really funny because yeah, it's kind of showcasing their sense of humor. And I think there's some quite complex guitar picking or arpeggiated guitar going on underneath. And yeah, I really like this. But yeah, the music video, which for those of you who haven't seen it yet, it's they're in America and Guy McKnight is running for president as the president of the disaster party. And it's incredibly male gazy, lots of like, you know, women looking pretty and having fun, but I can't help but be charmed. So I don't know if you noticed this, Fran, but in one of the breakdown bits where the guitar breaks down and then there's a drum bit, Guy McKnight uses a woman's bum as a drum, and it just cuts, and I'm like, oh, that is a bit sexist, but it is quite funny. Like, it's just that thing of like, I just want it to go both ways. Like, if I made a music video, would want to use a guy's bum as a drum. If we can all do that, I'm sure we'd all be happier. But
I'm sure he.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's it. I'm sure. I mean, she does seem to be having a good time. You hope it's all above board. But I remember the music video, and I only had MTV Europe, so I don't know where I was seeing it. This was obviously pre YouTube, so it wasn't radio for me. But I was definitely aware of it, even though I was probably looking out for it. But yeah, I'm surprised, Fran, as I'm sure you are, like that. Yeah, you wouldn't think this is a way in, because I like Mike would have thought this was a much better way in than Psychosis Safari. So we're continuing on an animal theme for the rest of the songs on this playlist. Actually, I've just realized, Mike. So what's your next pick?
So I've done the first 3 songs as kind of the intro songs, the famous songs, or the accessible songs. The next 2 are my favorite songs. Fish Fingers is, I love a short, sharp, punky, shouty song, and this just delivers it brilliantly. Vocally, is it not Guy singing? Because it's co-written by Tom, the drummer, and there's a few songs but the vocals, this scratchy, I want to fall all over the place. And it reminds me, do you remember there's an actor, a bit 90s London gritty actor who's in like Lock, Stock and a few films. I looked up his name's Steve Sweeney. I don't know if you have any idea what I'm talking about. He had this kind of scratchy voice, and I love it on this. And I've seen it live, and I've looked up on YouTube, and I only see Guy singing this in the guy's normal Guy voice. So I don't know if Tom's maybe singing this or Guy's just doing something with his voice when recording that he can't do live. But I just love, it's just silly and I love it. And it's just, and that wow bit is just so much fun.
Yeah, the "wapow" is my favourite word, especially on Spotify, going, oh, that's what you're saying. Thank you very much. Although him saying he's the son of God didn't get the same reaction as the Beatles, I noticed.
Too early.
Yeah, this is like a rampage in a mosh pit. I'm sure it goes off where they play this live, I imagine. But yeah, it's produced by Paul Tipler, who produced Idlewild and Placebo.
Oh, I loved Idlewild.
This would be like a fun, quick mosh and out again, but I don't think I'd ever put it on.
Well, I don't know if you know, Fran, but I think this whole album is 25 minutes long. That's 10 songs. Like it is one of the very short ones.
So how long were their gigs then back in the day?
Well, yeah, I only saw them in 2012. How long were they, Mike?
Yeah, no, I've only seen them after 2 albums, so I've never seen, unless that lot. No, it would have been Mr. Mental. So yeah, I would have seen them when they had at least 50 minutes of music. So.
do they do like improv? Do they like just jam for like a while?
No, but they've got
No,
lots
not
of
at all.
B-sides, and so they probably did a lot of B-sides and unreleased.
So this is the thing, we actually haven't mentioned it yet, just to quickly interject, but they have this EP called In the Garden.
Oh yeah, I had that,
which
yeah.
This is the beautiful thing about having a Hotmail account from the mid 2000s still active. I tried to order it on Amazon in 2010. I found it along with Scrubs season 5 and I think a Franz Ferdinand album or something like that. But it clearly didn't arrive because, as far as I've known, I've never heard it. And yeah, part of the reason why I went on this kind of deep dive was because they have albums and they have EPs that have songs that you just you don't see them anywhere. I think they have a lot of material.
I want to ask a quick question. So in the research, everyone mentioned that Chicken is the most popular song because of a Nike advert.
Well, no, that like unexpectedly and recently. So I've got the notes on that as well. In 2012, it was used, and I mean that was obviously they formed in the early noughties, and I think it was probably because of that they reformed and played those shows and thought about writing music, but then it just didn't work out.
Yeah, are you guys not a fan of Chicken?
Yeah,
I love Chicken. Yeah.
Well, do you know, my comment actually is so love this album, don't think there's a bad song, but I think apart from maybe Celebrate Your Mother, Psychosis Safari and Charge Your Guns, I find it really difficult to tell them apart. So I, for example, couldn't tell this song apart from Chicken, and because it's such a short album as well, I very often listen to
similar name as well.
Like, so many animals.
So
many animals. I hadn't realized. But yeah, what a great song. I also wrote best use of whoop-ow that I've ever heard in my life. And yeah, I presume like that it was guys singing and he was just like really, I don't know, someone was squeezing his testicles and he's doing that full set, or maybe it is Tom. I'm not sure,
because he does a lot of shouty stuff and growly stuff in most of everything he does, and at not one point does he sound like this, and maybe the producer just made him sound like that, but when he does it live he doesn't do that, so it just makes me think it might not be him, but it's a mystery.
Should we go to the final song?
The final song is Puppy Dog Snails from the second album from Royal Society. So this was maybe still is, I don't know, it's hard to say, but a lot of listens to the album so many times it's hard to say what my favorite song is, but I just adored how silly it was. It's a silly story, and it's a silly story about like giants and stuff, like a Jack and the Beanstalk kind of story, and they do it in they it's like they're reading this story to his nephew or something, and doing all the voices. What do we do with the puppy dog's tail? It's so silly, and they don't do too much musically, because they're just telling a story, and you just want to listen to the story and the vocals and the silly voices, and I just loved it. It was just so much fun. And it's again, it's kind of verse chorusy, because it's like, I know a lot of their songs are kind of jokey, but it's like, you know, when a band does a silly song and it actually does quite well, like, I don't know why I'm pulling this out of the air, but Puddle of Mud when they did She Fucking Hates Me, and that was meant to be a joke song that they did between rehearsals.
Not the link I thought you would make.
Just popped into my head. I'm sure there are others. Yeah, so it's just good fun. I put it on there because it's my favorite. I don't think it's a song that even they do it live, but I don't think it's a song that their fans, I don't know, I haven't met many of their fans, none of the fans that I've chatted to. Oh, he's one of your favorite. Yes.
Well, it actually isn't, but like okay. But I am a fan.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it on Top of the Pops. Yeah, it's like a twisted nursery rhyme melody sung by a demon. I put not an indie banger. but hey, not unexpected. Was not expecting that sound to come out. So thank you for. It's nice to know that they like to fuck about. This is more than Bon Jovi have ever done.
Like damning with faint praise there, but yeah. I think the second album is maybe the most diverse one. Mike, would you agree? Like,
yeah. As you say, a lot of the songs on the first album, I'd say that in the second album a little bit as well, but it's not one of those bands where I know the name of each song and I can say, oh, that one is Team Meat. So I don't even know whether it's Teammate or Team Meat. but I mean, this song stands out. But yeah, I think the second album it goes in lots of different kind of places and sounds.
Because I think this is their gothiest song.
Yeah.
Right. There's a piano in there at the end, which I don't think is really there on a lot of their other stuff. And the voices are going like this now. And yeah, as I said, I think this is a perfect album. But if I had to pick my favorite songs, it would be Drunk on the Stuff or Freud's Black Muck. Fran, just to let you know, because you're never going to listen to it, Freud's Black Muck starts with him going, guitar, 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 guitar. I like to play on my guitar, which I guess is maybe sounding a bit more Monster Munch / the Stranglers going crazy, as we've discussed before. But having to analyze this song, I was like, yeah, definitely they're using different instruments. And the chorus is in a different time I was trying to figure out the time signature and I couldn't. I think it's either like 10/4 and then 12/4. I don't know. Music nerds right in, because the verses in 4/4 pretty simple. But what shall we do with the puppy? The way it goes over and over. So again, it wrong fits you. And I quite like the whistle and guitar section as well. That I don't think
I love that.
is anywhere else. And I really enjoyed the YouTube comment that said this is like Monty Python summoning a demon.
Absolutely.
Did it have like a big goth fan base at all?
So,
like, was it indie kids or metal kids?
I thought a lot while preparing for this. Mike, the band that you picked is around the same era as the band that your podcast co-host picked, McCluskey. And I just think it was post grunge, pre indie rock explosion. I think there was a lot of rock bands, especially if they had a heavier sound, that were kind of lost in the wilderness. Like, I don't know. I feel like if there were goth people, they weren't aping these guys, they were aping the classics.
I remember sort of asking, or maybe playing it to a metalhead friend of mine nearer the time, thinking, okay, you like heavier music, you'll love this. And he was like, oh, this is rubbish. This is it maybe just doesn't fit in a box easily. So it just has a mishmash of different fans.
And I mean, I loved the Horrors' first album, and then they went in a totally different direction. And it's like, I like that direction too, but I still think their first album is the best, just in terms of like the biggest like banger ratio.
Absolutely.
It's like every single other album, apart from maybe V, I don't know, like that one has some very good songs. It's not consistent like the first one was, and clear sound, clear image. And with 80s Matchbox, I feel like they were like that, but then some, and they came before the Horrors. Fran, you mentioned Cramps. That's a band where I'm like, surely I must like these people more than I do. But I only know a couple of songs, and I haven't gone deeper.
Same, yeah, the Cramps are like a sort of band who appear on like the odd horror soundtrack, and that's kind of about it really. But I guess maybe they're not hard enough for Kerrang, they're not indie enough for Enemy, and they kind of like I said, they didn't really have a place to sell their wares really. And
I think sometimes because of their name, I'm sure many people dismiss them as like a novelty band, which in some respects they they didn't not have that vibe going on. But if you're a haughty indie snob, you're probably not going to go for them.
But also they also are the band that people will fucking love because of that different as well. I'm sure that if you're a fan of them, you own everything.
Like honestly, I bought like 3 different CDs on Discogs yesterday.
Yeah, it's about Manson, and there's like part of people who like Manson just own every single thing they ever did. That's unexpected. It's similar with this band as well,
So asking the question, I think Fran, I might hazard a guess at what you're going to say if 80s Matchbox are underrated.
You know what? So I was hoping I would love them because I do like an odd indie band. So I was disappointed, but I didn't. I do apologize. I sort of thought, okay, I watched the music videos, I watched the interviews, but I couldn't find the love. Where is the love? It's not with me. I'm so sorry, but it's for me. They're still not underrated. I'm happy they existed, and more bands like this should exist, and a lot of them do exist in Brighton gladly because they embrace the weirdo culture.
Don't worry, Fran, because the love is all coming from me. Yeah, 100,000% underrated. Thank you, Mike, for giving me an excuse to really spend a lot of time and money doing the research into this band. And yeah, I feel like there's so many songs yet to discover, which is quite exciting actually. That's the thing with kind of older bands. So it's like, yeah, not everything is easily available online, and it is rare in any band, even my favorite bands, to have one album that I listen to all the way through with no interruptions. 80s Matchbox have 2 albums that are like that for me. And yeah, we didn't really get into the third album. Like, honestly, the third album, go and listen to it again, Mike, because I think sometimes when you really like a band, if they change direction, but you're like, oh, this isn't so much for me. And there's a few songs, there's especially kind of a few quieter songs where I'm like, oh, but there's some really, really like, Man for All Seasons, Ripped In, Monsieur Cuts. I really would recommend having a listen again. And actually,
as long as
Fran,
you don't ask me to listen to more Royal Blood, I'm
yeah. Mike was texting me and he's like, "Oh, this is torture." I mean, I think we can all conclude that we very much love Brighton, and I thought it was really fun and kind of sweet to watch them in that weird Dutch interview where they were just going around Brighton being like, "I drink at this pub." like Simran talking about I just found it was always earnest, where he's like, yes, if you do drugs, it's like, it's like you become a nighttime person, but then we realized they weren't good for you because it's like being on holiday all the time. I was like, this is very stream of consciousness stuff. And
how old are they then as well?
I mean, that interview, they're probably early 20s, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would guess, but I don't. It kind of wouldn't surprise me if they were older. but yeah, I DSM-4 I really recommend checking out. And yeah, there's loads of others. So I think Simran is he is now kind of Primitive Ignorant. There's another band called Vile Imbeciles. Great name.
Saw Piano Wire.
Yes, Piano Wire. Yes,
they weren't good. My friend was on the bill with them, and I was like, oh great, I get to see. Which it wasn't Andy. Was it Sim? I can't remember which one of them. The one that wears a hat. I
think that's Simran. Yeah.
And it was just like they were just doing a bad impression of sort of post-Strokes indie. It was very boring, and I was just kind of surprised. And it actually makes sense that when they say their music tastes have gone in different directions. Like, well, this doesn't feel like the guy from 80s Matchbox. This just feels like another wannabe indie kid who's maybe 10 years too old to be doing this.
Thank you very much for coming on.
No, thank you. Really enjoyed it.
And what would you like to plug while you're here today?
Well, I have a podcast about a playlist.
You don't say.
I do. It's about a playlist. It's called Playlist Yeah. It's where me and former guest Kerry Mitchell, one of my best friends, we created a collaborative playlist where he chooses a song, I choose a song, which is now 2,000 tracks deep, but we're about 200 in on the podcast, where we invite a guest every episode. I'm not gonna say every month. We definitely don't record monthly. And go and see if they can guess the next track and why we chose it. And we tease them with very small snippets of the song. And there's lots of silly features where my mum tells us what she thinks about the song, and I sing one of the songs at the person, and the guest has to choose a song to define them as a person, and they're only allowed to listen to that song for the rest of their lives. And Babs, you've been a guest, and you've just spent the last hour telling me about songs that you've been listening to recently by 80s Matchbox and Royal Blood. So you've listened to them previously, and you're just saying that for the purposes of this episode, surely.
Of course, because all I've been listening to is Alana by CSS, which is the song I chose to define myself. Everything else comes from memory.
Excellent, good. I had to check. We just it's about music, but it's more just about silliness, to be honest.
So I've been a guest on Playlist Yeah, and I had a lot of fun, and I got a free t-shirt out of it, which was great. Thank you very much again. But I think you said at one point, like, yeah, Barbara has a proper music podcast. And I was like, really? Like, thank you. It's a great compliment. But
and has your mum heard 80s Matchbox?
No, we haven't had an episode with them, although I'm sure they're not on the playlist as much as you'd think, for 2 fans of 80s Matchbox. But I love it when we add a song to the playlist and realize, why haven't we had this band or this song yet? So yeah, maybe 80s Matchbox they must be on it. Anyway, it's a good laugh. Give it a try.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely check out my episode of Playlist Yeah. Check out our episode with Kerry talking McCluskey and Manic Street Preachers from the last season.
And then can you email in and say whose is better of the two episodes?
There we go. There we go. I love it. We're starting beef, even though we're just guesting on each other's podcasts willy-nilly.
And if you're a fan of Brighton, we have 2 episodes in Sussex. So check those out as well, guys.
Indeed, including an interview with Ben Hampson, who's produced a few bands that we've talked about today, and is a very nice man, and does the AA Sessions compilation albums, which is still going. So Volume 3 is still being released, and I was saying to Fran off the record, we need to promote it more on social media. So if we're not, then someone else, get in touch. I do very much want to plug it. Fran, anything you'd like to end on?
I'm heading down to Brighton next month to see Arkells. So it's been a long time. I've not been to the Green Room in a long time. So looking forward to seeing some live music next month. And Babs, I hope you get to see lots of live music as well.
Indeed. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
So thanks for sticking until the end. I hope you agree with me that indeed the 80s Matchbox Beeline Disaster are underrated. It's quite funny because they recently, set up a bunch of social media pages on Facebook and Instagram and elsewhere, and they're re-releasing Horse of the Dog, their first album, as a special edition. We didn't know that when we were recording it, but yeah, we're very hopeful that it means something and that maybe there'll be a bit more of 80s Matchbox Beeline Disaster to see and hear. But in the meantime, definitely check out DSM-4. They're also still releasing music. I also wanted to add that we reached out to Paul Tipler and he confirmed that it was Guy singing on Fish Fingers. So there we go. And because we're so well connected and we love to use the social media to reach out to people. And if you like to use the social media to reach out to us, you can tweet us at OU Music Pod. You can message us on Instagram at overunderatedmusicpod, or you can email us overunderatedmusicpod@gmail.com. If you're by the sea, have some chips for me, and see you next time.